So thank you for coming tonight to hear Stephen speak with us. And hopefully you can see my slides. Before we go turn to him, I'm just going to tell you a little bit, in case you don't know, about Energize Framingham. Let's see. Here we go. Energize Framingham is just a group of concerned citizens working here in Framingham to encourage our residents and our government and our businesses to make sustainable choices. And we provide a number of resources, trying to do these monthly talks, maybe not monthly, but on and off. We have a website full of resources, and then a Facebook and Instagram account. And most importantly, we have a really awesome newsletter that we've started this year, and kudos to Nancy Fleisler on this call. She is our amazing writer for that. And we'd love for you to subscribe here, or I can send up a follow-up email. And then just to give you a quick look at our website here, we have, like I said, a number of things, lots of ideas for actions that you can go in and see information, but you can also mark them as done. You've done them, so we get an idea of what's popular here in Framingham. People can leave reviews about their experiences with or without a vendor recommendation, and then we have a Teams function that we're going to look to get moving. And with that, that is Energize Framingham. And once again, I'd like to thank Stephen for taking the time to come speak with us tonight. He has told me that we're going to take questions as we go along, and I will be monitoring the chat. So if people have questions, they can put them in the chat, and if we don't get to everything, we'll follow up tonight.
Perfect.
With that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Stephen. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Now, in terms of sharing my screen, do I just hit share screen on this thing? Yes.
Yes, you should be able to.
So you have to get out before I can get in.
I apologize. Yep, that's right.
There we go. And I'm going to share this one. Oh, perfect. Look at that. And I'm going to try to, here we go, turn slideshow. From the beginning. All right, perfect. Well, welcome Energize Framingham. As you can see, this screen here is one of our beautiful recycling / trash trucks. They're actually aging right now. They're getting up there in age. These came in 2015 when I first came to Framingham. So as they age, we're hoping that they change them out. They have a program where we can get newer vehicles in and keep our recycling and our trash in-house. I think that's important, aspect from our point of view, that we keep everything in-house and, make sure that we give the residents the best possible service. So as you know, my name is Sarnosky. I'm the municipal recycling coordinator for the city. And there's my email address and my phone number. So if you ever want to speak to me or, shoot me an email with a question you might have, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Not a problem. At this point in time, I think I'm pretty knowledgeable about the ins and outs of recycling and how recycling works within the community. So what do I have planned for you tonight? We are going to be talking about how recycling works. Most of us have a pretty good idea about how recycling works. We'll discuss the importance of recycling, demonstrate what to recycle and what not, and ask some questions. Now, this is what I'm doing for you is just kind of giving you a basic overview of things, because I think everyone on the Zoom here is pretty knowledgeable about how recycling works. So it's not try not to give too much of a 101. So for those of us who don't already know, what do we do for the residents of Framingham? In 2021, we provided weekly curbside recycling for over 18,000 households, and that number is getting bigger, by the way, as a lot of these multifamily, when I mean multifamily, like duplex condos come online. In Judy's district, there's the development called Orchard View down off of Beaver Street that we service. We don't service the bigger condos, townhouses like up on what is it, Millward. We don't do any of them. And we also allow residents and business to access to additional recycling disposal at the recycling drop-off center for a fee, of course, as everybody knows. It's pretty cheap for the bang. It's pretty good bang for the buck. We also do annual recycling events such as Shred Fest, Household Hazardous Waste Day, which is always a benefit, and it's a great opportunity for residents to, get rid of their hazardous waste. And then Electronics Day. And by the way, we're always open for other types of events that residents might want to see. It's not just we just do this, we just do these all the time, but we're also interested in doing maybe some other events. I personally support community events related to environmental friendly initiatives. So what would that be? Earth Day, things of that nature. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to the Cobenville event this year because it conflicted with my other duties, which is route supervising. So I do it all. So what is your recycling IQ? All right, you got to ask yourself a question. Why is recycling important? We all know why recycling is important. Who does the recycling in your house? Whenever I run into problems with recycling carts being contaminated, and I happen to run across the resident, they always seem to blame the spouse or the kids as to why things didn't go right. So, but that's okay. But then they say, well, let me take care of this for, okay, not a problem. Is everything recyclable? That's a big question mark. And what are the top 5 most important things that should be recycled? All right. And we're going to delve into this. If anybody has any, if they want to add to, the importance of recycling, by all means, I'd love to hear your ideas. So obviously we saves natural resources like trees, fossil fuels. Right now, fuel is pretty high. So when fuel goes up, I should say when the cost of crude oil goes up, which they put into plastics, the industry has a tendency to start looking more at the recyclables, maybe paying a little bit more for that, as opposed to trying to use raw materials. Recycling, of course, helps reduce waste consumption. Recycling reduces waste placed into landfills. That's a big thing. For those of us who don't know, on this Zoom meeting, a lot of the landfills in Massachusetts are going away, and they're going away very quickly. So what does that mean? If you want to get a good idea about recycling, or even trash for that matter, anything that goes into landfills, just on any given day, go over the Winthrop Street Bridge. Not Winthrop Street. What am I thinking of? The Winter Street Bridge, excuse me. You just look over the sides and you're going to see a bunch of trains loaded with debris. And all that debris is going somewhere, and it's not going in state, it's going out of state. Some of the bigger landfills are in New York, Pennsylvania, places like that. And recycling of, when we talk about, endangering animals, the first thing you hear about is these turtles that get wrapped around plastics and stuff like that. I think in the United States, we do a pretty good job at preventing that, but overseas, it's not the case. A lot of countries just dump their stuff right into the ocean, and it's unfortunate. So what are the top 5 most recyclable items? They haven't really changed over the years, believe it or not. We're talking curbside now. A lot of things are recyclable, both at curbside and what they call sourced, or single source, like you see at the recycling drop-off center. Okay. So stuff that we want to see in the recycling carts are paper. Paper, believe it or not, is still the number one in terms of composition. It's still the number one item that goes into a recycling cart. Cardboard is gaining traction very quickly. In my personal opinion, I think if Jeff Bezos wants to help out the planet, he should really get a program going where where you can return your cardboard back to Amazon. Because I'll tell you why, is because it's really creating a problem for us here in the city, and we're going to get into that just a little bit. Household plastics, glass is the Mass DEP still wants glass, even though it's not as valuable as it used to be, because they don't want to stop something and then have to redo it. It wouldn't be a good idea just to put the brakes on something and then have to fire it back up again. It wouldn't be a good look for Mass DEP and the municipalities. And then, of course, the good old aluminum and metal cans. Now we're getting, a bigger bang for that, because that's always a renewable resource, believe it or not. Not everything gets recycled in your cart. All right. Now, some of these things you can get maybe recycled at the transfers, at the recycling drop-off center, or in places like that. So styrofoam has always been a nemesis, and it will continue to be a nemesis. And we can certainly, I know some of the questions, we can talk about styrofoam. Tangles like garden hoses and wires and rope. It's exactly what it says. It's a tangle, and tangles up the machinery. It gets caught in the recycling trucks. I can't tell you how many pieces of wire, rope and stuff like that I pulled out of mechanisms, and all this stuff, when it damages equipment, costs us money. We don't have an infinite budget for stuff that gets damaged. Face masks, believe it or not, is another problem for us all of a sudden. People are just not they're just throwing these things in the recycling cart. And I can't imagine somebody with a conscience would throw a face mask into a recycling cart, but they do, and it's debris. Curbside, clothing is now a waistband item. A waistband item is anything that doesn't belong in the trash. So I should say refuse. Refuse is considered the garbage, things like that. And so Mass DEP put on their list of things you shouldn't throw into the trash cart, and one of them is clothing and textiles. Plastic bags and wrap, and we're going to talk a little bit about plastic bags later on. Tires and car parts. Tires can be recycled at the recycling drop-off center. Car parts are just trash. Lots of times we'll find metal brake shoes, spent brake shoes inside recycling carts, and really it's not one of those things that they want. When I say they, I mean the MRF. And then garbage and just garbage overall, and we see a lot of that in recycling.
Stephen, can you let us know what a MRF is?
Yep, a MRF is a material recovery facility, acronym MRF. And our material recovery facility is out there in Westboro, Harvey's, now WasteCon. WasteCon is a Canadian company, and what they've been doing is, you keep your eye on this, because they've been buying up. They've been buying up mom and pop operations. They just bought off or part of Orifice over there in Ashland. They bought Harvey's, and what they're doing is they're growing their business. And the way they're doing that is just by buying up companies. Who knows? I mean, they could become a monopoly, maybe not. I mean, the big ones are Casella, Waste Management, and WasteCon. There's another one out there, Republic, I think. But, when you get billions of dollars to spend on things, and they can do it, and who knows what that will do for the market. Will it necessarily get us a better bang for our buck? We don't know. That remains to be seen.
Another question here on the topic of textiles, since we were on that. Couple questions on this pink bag program, whether that's still here, whether it costs the town money, etc.
Yeah. So the pink bag program is no longer the pink bag program. Basically, what it is, it's a so what they're referring to is, in the past, the company that was doing it for us what they did was they would just go from neighborhood to neighborhood on your trash collection day, recycling collection day. And then what they would, and we'll talk about that I have a few more slides down. We can talk about it, but I'll answer the question now. So what they did, COVID put a monkey wrench into a lot of things, as we all know. And so what had happened was when COVID hit, Simple Recycling decided to stop collecting curbside, period. That's it. We're not going to do it anymore until this thing blows over. So then it blows over. And then what they did was they just stopped, they kept that up for a little while, but then what they did was they went into an on-call situation where, and this is all on our website, by the way. So if you want to get your clothing picked up, you just simply send them an email or give them a call. They'll schedule a pickup. I think from their point of view, it's probably a smart thing to do rather than just traverse the neighborhoods on a weekly basis, wasting gas at $4.50 a gallon or whatever it is nowadays. So from their point of view, it's probably a very good thing to do. I don't really know how much money they're getting from this, but in the beginning, they must have been making some kind of money because they were doing it from week in and week out. It worked out pretty good. We get a monthly report from them. I don't have that information at the top of my head, but we're still collecting it. We're still people are still using the service. I don't know what the future is going to be like for Simple Recycling. I do have some ideas in mind in terms of who else might be getting involved in the future. Their contract with us is up in another year. So that's pretty much it. And did I answer your question? Okay.
The only other question was whether the Simple Recycling costs the city money.
No, it doesn't cost us anything. We don't pay to have them here. So and we also have, for those of us who don't want to use Simple Recycling at curbside, you can bring it down to the recycling drop-off center and put your clothing in there. And we get money from them for the Framingham Scholarship Fund. So every year we give a kid, young adult, I should say, money towards their environmental goals. So if they're getting a degree in environmental sciences or something to that effect, I think this year we gave out like $1,300 or something like that. In fact, I think it was $1,300. Not bad. I think it's a great opportunity for somebody who's really engaged to just say, okay, I want to do this. I think it'd be nice. So I've been doing it for the last 8 years. I think it's a great thing. Okay, so how does recycling work? For those of us who've never been to the MRF, otherwise known as a material recovery facility, it starts off with us picking up your recycling. It goes to the MRF. It gets sorted. You see there, number 2. And then it gets sorted into cardboard, paper, plastic, steel, glass, aluminum, and then various plastics. And then it gets shipped to particular buyers. Now, if you were to go to that Harvey's, you would notice that there's bales and bales and bales of cardboard just sitting there waiting to go out because things are slowing down. We'll talk a little bit about that in the area of recycling. The recycling markets are starting to slow down again for various reasons. It's kind of, and by the way, if you ever want to take a tour of that operation, you just get a hold of the management over there, and they, like maybe Energize Framingham could go there during the day or something like that. If you could work it out, and you could actually see what's going on. And if you want me to facilitate a tour, I'd be happy to do that too. I do know a few people down there that who I've spoken to in the past, and I've toured with them just to see what it's like. And they like to do that because they want the community to understand what it is that they're doing. It's not a big secret. You just got to wear a hard hat and glasses and probably some boots. Okay, we talked about recyclable clothing. Always recycle used clothing. You can use the Simple Recycling schedule at home pickup like we talked about, or you can use the drop-off center. Both we don't see a lot of clothing nowadays in the recycling. We see it every now and then. And part of my job as a recycling coordinator / route supervisor is to audit recycling carts. And I do it on a daily basis. All I do is go down the street, I'll open up a cart, take a look. If it's full of trash or whatever, I'll tag it. Just as now, the tagging system that we use it's an educational tool that we use to help people understand what to recycle and what not to recycle. Sometimes we'll leave the cart behind and we'll get a phone call. Hey, you didn't pick up my cart. And that's an opportunity for someone like myself to talk to the resident and say, hey, just so you know, this is the reason why your cart didn't get picked up. Then we'll say, could you please rectify it? And then we'll come back and collect it for them. And the reason why we do that is because we can be fined, or a surcharge rather. Fine is more like what you get from a municipality. We can be surcharged by the MRF by as much as $150 extra per ton for each load that's contaminated. So each one of those cars, or each one of the trucks rather, holds about 15 tons of material. Actually, I'm sorry, back up, that's trash. On average, about 5 to 7 tons of recyclable material for each truck times 4. So it adds up very quickly. If you've got 5 tons at $150 a ton, that's not in the budget. So phone calls go out, people get spoken to, how can we clarify this problem? And the way we do that is by staying on top of it on a daily basis, not really letting it slide past you and say, well, that's just the way it is and that kind of thing, which a lot of people do, by the way. Not everybody's
a couple quick questions on textiles since we're on this slide, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So folks are wondering, are all textiles considered the same? Curtain sheets, towels, clothing, knits, yarn? What about clothes that are worn out? How about those?
Yes, you can put all that in they'll take it. And the good thing about simple recycling is they'll also take other things such as electronics. So here's the thing, you can recycle, your dirty rag, or not your dirty rags, but your used rags. If it has grease or if it's contaminated with grease, if it's wet, they don't want that. If it's moldy, just throw it away. So mold, grease, wetness, none of that stuff. But like old blue jeans, old t-shirts, old any kind of thing like that, not a problem. Just and they'll tell you like how to bag it. So the pink bags have gone away. So but if you have pink bags, by all means, put them in there. It's not a problem. They'll take them. They don't necessarily want them at the curb. They actually prefer you put them on on your porch, or and that way it stays. It won't get wet in case they can't pick it up on a particular day. So yeah.
Do you have questions about contamination now, or is there a later slide on that?
No, we can talk about it because I just talked about it a minute ago about all that. Right. So go ahead. Yeah.
So the audience is asking, there's so many mistaken beliefs about recycling. How do any trucks escape the fine, and what is considered contamination?
Well, the fancy word for contamination is residue. So you might think, okay, so what is contamination? Really, from our point of view, contamination is anything that isn't recyclable. So what does that mean? So let's just go down the list of things that they don't want. So we talked about the top 5. As long as that is clean, reasonably clean, we don't want people jumping through hoops to clean their mayonnaise jars or their peanut jars or anything like that. But we want it to be reasonably clean, something that you would look at and say, okay, this is reasonably clean. So if your recycling cart has flies buzzing all over it and maggots crawling on it, you got a problem. It's not clean. That's contamination. But from the MRF standpoint, if you ever do get a chance to visit it, you're going to see a constant stream of stuff that's just coming out one end of it. And all that is plastic stuff like plastic bags, potato chips, bags, dirty, this, that, or the other thing, tangles, things of that nature. Just anything that that isn't on that top 5 is what ends up in the trash, otherwise known as residue. Now we're going to go down. We're going to go down to another slide pretty soon. I'm going to show you what the composition of a typical recycling cart looks like, and how much it's worth per, how much we're paying, I should say, and how much we're getting. We're not really getting paid for this stuff. We're always paying. We never get we used to get a bang for our buck, but not anymore. The tables have turned for all kinds of reasons. Yeah. So contamination, here's a good example of contamination. It would be someone who uses their cardboard as a catch basin for oil on their car. And they say, well, this is recyclable, but it's not. It's garbage. So we just want people to throw it away. Now, conversely, pizza boxes are now considered a recyclable item, provided that it's not caked with pizza or the tissue that goes in it. They've told us point blank, we want that material, but it has to be no crust, that kind of thing. So if I'm auditing someone's cart and I see that there's crust inside the pizza box, I'm going to do a kind thing and throw it in a trash cart, or just not pick it up at all and throw it in the the recycling cart. So, and that's the joy of having that option. It's like we won't pick up your cart because we want you to recycle properly.
What about grease spots on pizza boxes?
They seem to think it's okay. Yeah, that's what they're telling us, Nancy. So yeah, it's I was kind of like all against it in the beginning. I was talking to my boss. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We've been telling people for years not to recycle pizza boxes. All of a sudden we're recycling it. There's all kinds of articles out there about it. So you can certainly read up on it. They did a study, and they said, yeah, we'll take that. But here's the thing. Like I said, COVID has changed things so much. And one of them is because the restaurants were closed. You remember? They just closed everything down, couldn't go to the schools were closed. And they said, okay, how are we going to figure this thing out? So somehow or another, they found a way to recycle pizza boxes. Do I recycle I don't know. I don't recycle. I guess I recycle pizza boxes. I have to, right? They're telling me it's okay. And that's why we talk about the ebb and flow of recycling, where, what's in, what's out. It's always those 5 things that are always in. Okay. If you notice that cardboard milk containers are now out, they don't want them at all. We don't see as much of that as we used to, because the reason why those are out is because it's very hard to recycle it, and by the time they get it to where it needs to be recycled, it's just a big pile of mush. Because a lot of people, it's moisture in there right off the bat. A lot of people don't clean them out. So you're getting a lot of moisture and, that kind of thing. And that's unfortunate, but, it's a trash item now for those of us who don't already know that. Okay.
We have a lot more detailed questions, but we'll let you get through a couple more slides.
Okay, that's fine. So what has changed? The recycling markets remain volatile. Right now, we're going into another down market. I was told by my Mass DEP counterpart, and for what reasons? It's a commodity. It's really a market-driven thing. Hey, look at that! Pizza boxes are now recyclable. We've had marked increases in both refuse and recycling cost, the cost of disposal. Disposal costs increase while disposal budgets are strained. We all want to stay the same in terms of how much money we're paying in taxes and whatnot, but we also want the services as well. So it's a fine balance for everybody. How do we get there? When the cost of recycling is more expensive than the cost of trash, a lot of people are going to sit there and question, why are we doing this? The RDC has resumed its book donations, we had to put three containers up there because we've been advertising it, like we now take your books. And what was happening is that we kept having book overloads, donations, so they'd end up outside the containers. So we have a once a week pickup. It's working out pretty good. And we get money for that too, $1 a pound. I'm sorry, penny a pound. So it says here, plastics, you say, not all plastics are recyclable. I see a grammatic or an error there that I didn't catch before. I do the best I can. I don't have an editor, so if anybody ever wants to be an editor, I'd be happy to have you on board. How about you, Judy? All right, so basically what they're telling us now is be less concerned about the codes on the back as it is what its shape is and what is considered like a household plastic. So household plastics are just what you're using around your house, your drink bottles, your laundry detergents, yogurt containers like you see there in the top right. Milk jugs are always recyclable. And then the ones down the bottom, they each have a separate code, like 1s and 2s are good. 5s are really good plastics. Now you might see a 6 in there. 6 is like a styrofoam, I think, along with that black plastic. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Pretty much things you can see through are always good for the most part, unless it's a polycarbonate. Polycarbonate is what you have, what they make coat hangers out of. I like to use the adage of a coat hanger it's born a coat hanger, it lives its life as a coat hanger, and it dies a coat hanger. That's it. There's nothing more to it. And that's a mixed plastic polycarbonate that doesn't have any value at the end of its life. So the best way to handle that is just to reuse and repurpose. And we talk a lot about reusing and repurposing. The other day I was over at Trader Joe's, which I go there only to buy eggs, beer, and milk. That's it, because everything else doesn't appeal to me, but that's okay. So as I'm walking, they don't have like Heinz ketchup over there as an example. So as I'm going past there, I see this vacuum place, right? They sell vacuum cleaners, they service them, everything else. So I said, wow, but isn't it interesting that the person put made a planter out of a vacuum? Now that's a really cool way to repurpose something. It wasn't fake either. It was actually a live plant that the person, go by if you shop at Trader Joe's, go by there and notice it. So really, we want to focus on when it comes to plastics, you want to focus on really the shapes. Now, there are some plastics that you can throw away, like what they call bulky plastics. Don't throw those in your recycling cart, like laundry baskets, children's playthings, stuff like that. If it feels heavy, bring it down to the recycling drop-off center. It's handled differently than this other stuff. People will bring down bumpers, like plastic bumpers, and really that's just a trash item. So we just chuck it in the trash truck down there. And there again, like raw materials, because of the cost of crude oil nowadays, I'm under the impression that they're now looking again at using recyclable plastics. And it's a never-ending thing. It just doesn't stop. If the material recovery facility shuts down for just one day or a week, we got a problem on our hands because it's just a train of stuff coming in on a daily basis. Okay, so things what I call falling through the cracks. And this is important because a lot of people will separate their plastic caps, like you see there on the top left, from the bottle itself. And what happens is it goes missing. It falls through the cracks, literally falls through the cracks at the MRF. It should be at least 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, so square. That way they can catch it. The equipment, most of it's automated nowadays. They do have people that will sort through it. Bottle caps, it's hard for me to say put a bottle cap back on your beer bottle or your soda bottle or whatever, but if you can do it, do it. The machinery will pick it up. broken glass is a problem. It's a problem for us in the trucks, because what's happening is that glass grinds the beds of the truck, and we have to repair them on an annual basis, believe it or not. It's just like sand back and forth all day long. I don't know, like some communities don't take glass anymore. They just don't want it. It's just a big problem for them. And then shredded paper, a lot of people are under the understanding that, or think that shredded paper should go into the recycling cart, but it's actually a trash item once you recycle it. So the way to get around that is to bring it down to our annual Shred Fest that we have it's usually around either April or May, down at the recycling drop-off center. So pay attention to our multimedia, as well as the website, and it'll tell you when Shred Fest will be. But don't shred it up and throw it in the trash, because it's going to end up, throw it in the recycling, because it's going to end up in the trash. Now, a lot of people will just dump it in the trash, in the recycling cart, and it'll just blow all over the place. It's not going anywhere. No one can pick that through, you see. So yeah, and so to put it in a paper bags are considered trash. If you have your recyclables in any kind of bag, it's going to be treated as trash. Nobody at the MRF is going to be digging through the paper bag or the plastic bag. So, and that's a big, and then we're going to talk about plastic bags in just a minute here. Something Judy and I have in common. So here you have a typical recycle cart, the composition of a typical recycling cart. So we talked about commodities. Recyclables are what they call commodities, okay? So we'll go down the list here. Mixed paper, OCC is otherwise known as old cardboard, old container cardboard, meaning used cardboard. Now keep it, and we'll take a little bit, just a second to talk about cardboard. Cardboard does not have an infinite life. The fibers of the cardboard, when they stretch out over time, they become very, very brittle, for a lack of a better term. So when you see cardboard coming, let's say from an Asian market or something like that, you see it's wrapped up kind of like paper. That stuff is considered really not so good. It's the cardboard that you get from Amazon and stuff that's really good. All right, that's actually very valuable. Glass, mixed, PET, that's plastic, that's your water bottles, natural HDPE, like I think your number twos. Then you have what they call post-consumer plastic, PP, mixed plastics, aluminum cans, steel cans, and residue. So as you go over here, it says value. So each one of these has a market value, based, I think it's per ton. All right. So let's say, for example, the value is for mixed paper is 75.5 per ton times the composition gives you a dollar amount. All right. Unfortunately, I can't really, let me see if I can move this over just a tad. I can't, that's all right. I had kind of memorized anyway. So so the revenue is what we're getting. All right. And it goes up and down based on the market. Now we talked about markets, right? The commodities. So what are we getting the most money for? I would say it looks to me like we're aluminum cans, for example, steel cans. Now, by the way, this is a generic thing that I made up based on some information that I found out. OCC could be down right now. All right, paper could be down, but it goes up and down. And basically what happens is the MRF will charge us a particular dollar amount, and residue now you see how much the residue is? It's a -80. So these negative numbers added into the positive numbers gives you a total. And then you have a processing fee. And from that processing fee, you're going to get either a rebate or a charge. It's always a charge. Trust me. Back in the day, we used to get a rebate, or it used to be very, very small. Before COVID hit, or I should say before the Chinese stopped taking our stuff, we were getting a pretty good value, meaning like we didn't have to pay that much. We were paying as little as $40 a ton to get rid of recyclables. Now it's, I think we're paying about $105 a ton to get rid of recyclables. So recyclable, when people say, well, how much are you getting for recyclables? I says, well, we're getting some for things that are valuable, and we're not getting money for things that aren't valuable. Glass is not valuable anymore. It's really too bad. Although glass is in there. You see glass is a negative number. So all that, we do all that adding and subtracting and whatnot, you come up with a number, and the dealer always wins, and the dealer is the MRF. They have to make money to get rid of this stuff, and the only way they're going to do that is by evaluating the markets. And really, the city negotiates with them to get a deal, and that's pretty much how the deal is from one city to the next. And that's why I talked about, hopefully we won't have a conglomerate in our backyard here, and we'll get some pretty good deals from our MRFs.
Stephen, a question. What happens to these materials after they get picked up?
Well, what happens is they get baled, and then they look for a market. Some materials don't have a market, such as styrofoam or black plastic, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. What happened? The market is cardboard will always have a market. As long as Amazon is in business, we'll always have a market. As long as stuff gets shipped by cardboard, we'll always have a market. Plastics will have a market, just a matter of if it's up or down. So it gets shipped to buyers. Most of the buyers are overseas. There are some here in the United States. Five Dragons paper mill. They bought a few paper mills up in Maine, and they're opening paper mills up there. So we don't have to ship it overseas. We can just ship it right up to Maine, and they'll take care. They will. We don't. We just ship it to the MRF, and they take care of it from there. So the MRF, think of the MRF as like a middleman, and they're doing the collecting and the shipping. And what they're doing is that they're trying to find buyers. So if they have to sit on something, it can get pretty hairy quickly. And so Mass DEP has in the past allowed the MRFs to literally throw away stuff because there's no way to get rid of it. And what they mean by throw it away is just put it into a landfill or turn it into over to a burn facility, of which there's one in Millbury. And they turn it's a fancy word name for it's called waste to energy facility. I think if they could do more of those, and really the problem is waste to energy facilities still create their own kind of debris, and that's called an ash landfill. It's carbon is what it is, and it ends up in the ground eventually. So everything seems to end up in the ground.
Quick questions there,
Yep.
Stephen. First, does our trash go to landfills or recycling? And what does refuse cost per ton if it costs 140 for recyclable?
No, it's 105. Refuse is about $84.50 as for last time I looked. Yeah, there's a difference. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, geez, why are we doing this? It's because it costs more to get to recycle than it does to get rid of refuse.
Yeah, what was the trash cost? I couldn't hear it.
I believe it's $84.50.
Thanks.
Yeah. Last time I looked.
So why
Might have
do
gone
we
up.
do it if it costs more to recycle?
Well, I think it's the right, my personal opinion, I think it's the right thing to do. I think that you really, those natural resources will go back. The thing of it is, if you don't recycle all that stuff that you would have otherwise recycled will end up in a landfill or a burn facility. So at least in this way, there's still recycling paper, cardboard, plastics, metal, aluminum, things of that nature. So I think it's important. But when you look at the composition, you have to think to yourself, where's this stuff going? It's going into the trash. So we as concerned citizens and advocates of recycling need to get that word out and say, look, why are you throwing away your aluminum in your trash when you could be putting it in your recycling cart or bringing it down to the recycling center? And I mean, if you're not going to do anything, at least recycle, something you can recycle, which is aluminum and metal and in your paper, in your cardboard, all that stuff is very recyclable.
Steve, can I ask a question?
Sure.
When you say recycle, I always get the impression that something ended up getting used again. But it sounds like we don't yet really know what the end uses are for most of what we put in the recycling bin.
Yeah. Well, the end uses for, let's just take, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll recycle, let's say like your number ones, which would be your plastic bottles, your clear plastic bottles, those get turned back into clear plastic bottles.
Okay.
I'm under the impression that even those plastic bottles have an end use too. I mean, they're done at some point in time. So like a lot of people will ask me about plastic bags, and the impression that I'm getting is that you can recycle plastic bags, but it has to be done sourced, meaning that you have to bring it somewhere where they'll collect it as opposed to just throwing it in your trash or your recycling. And that gets turned into things like fence posts, like you see that the fence posts that are out there, park benches, things of that nature. So everything that we talk about in terms of what recycling does have a recyclable value, it's just a matter of where does it go, to your point. So let's just take aluminum, for example. Most of the aluminum that we throw away gets recycled back into aluminum cans and whatnot. It gets turned into bicycles, steel bicycles, aluminum bicycles, things of that nature. Just as a few examples, cars parts and things of that nature. So it does go to overseas markets and even markets here in the United States and gets used. Steel, for example, there's a certain amount of recyclable steel that I'm on the impression that they use in the process of making steel. So yeah, it just gets dumped into into a furnace, and they just put it back into and make steel beams and things of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, you're muted, Amy.
Thank you. Quick time check. We're at around 6:50. We got a bunch more questions in the chat.
Well, why don't we go through this? Why don't we go, try to get through the PowerPoint, because there's some really good stuff coming up.
Great.
And I definitely want to, don't be bogged. I love answering questions, but we want to definitely get into, because some of the questions that you asked go directly to like the RDP and what we're doing with it. And we'll talk about what that means. So space your waste, guys. All right. We're running into, every day we run into problems where people jam their carts together. Really what we want you to do is a poor placement is up against fence posts, telephone wires, things of that nature, other objects. So space your waste 2 to 3 feet apart would be optimal. 3 feet better. What happens is if the efficiency of the collection vehicles gets diminished when they have to pick away at and move the cart away from they don't get out of their trucks to move things around. So if your cart doesn't get collected, the first thing you should ask yourself is, was it next to a telephone pole? I can't tell you how many times a truck has hit a telephone pole by accident, trying to get to a cart, or worse yet, hit a car, The other thing is where trials and tribulations, we're having a big problem with cardboard now in terms of collecting it. So on the left-hand side is a big no. We call these snow cones. So the snow cone, what people think, what they want to do is they want to get rid of it. Okay, just get it out of here. But that creates a collection problem, because what happens is the claw comes out, they go to pick it up, and everything just goes all over the place. All right. Same thing with the two on the bottom. But here's the other thing we discovered. If a resident cuts up their cardboard pretty good and throws it in there, it'll get collected. But if it looks like this one on the left-hand side, you see how the edges are going left to right. That's not good, because when the claw comes by and he grabs it, it squeezes and he can't get it out. Boom, boom, boom. Unlike the one on the right, and where it's loose in there, it'll come out very easily. The other thing you want to do is make sure you put all your heavy stuff on the bottom of the cart. That way it shakes out. Bang, bang, bang. everyone's happy. We get no phone calls. Like I said, we collect on a daily basis, a lot of cards. I think our success rate is pretty good. It's 0.00000, keep on going, but the resident doesn't care about that, who doesn't get collected, they don't care that, our success rate is really great, but their card didn't get collected. To them, it's 100% failure. We don't want that. So the way to get around that with recycling and make sure the card is closed to keep out the water and to keep out and the animal's not going to go after recycling if it's clean, obviously. So that's the problem with I'm going to talk to Jeff. Anybody know this guy who runs Amazon? Anybody have his phone number? I can talk to him. Okay. I have a great idea. Okay, Framingham DPW's Waste Wizard app. For those of us who already are on it, you can go on our website, or you can go to Apple Store, or you can go to the what's the other one there? Google Play, and you can download FramWorks. All right, FramWorks. You can download it on your smartphone, or you can just simply go to the sanitation department website, and you'll see the two icons there, one for Apple and one for Google, and just download it. I have it every week. It tells me what's going on. I know when my collection is, but sometimes I forget, maybe it's a holiday or something like that. It'll tell you, it'll give you the Waste Wizard, which will answer all of your recycling questions. If you don't want me to. Maybe you're up at 2 a.m. or something like that, and you decide, hey, I have a question for Stephen, but I don't want to wake him up. Just do it on the Waste Wizard, and it'll answer it. And then if you're confused or whatever, or it's not making sense to you, you can certainly give me a call. Okay, questions and answers. This is what we're here for. Okay. So energize, we can go a little long on this too, if you want. So I don't have a problem with that. So waste prevention, I'm a little bit, I might need some education on extended producer. Is my responsibility? Does anybody want to chime in on that regard? Maybe I can answer some questions about what the city might be doing, in terms of in this regard. Anybody want to chime in?
I posed the question, Stephen, just because extended producer responsibility, I think, was just passed in Maine this year.
Yeah.
And just giving, my understanding is it's the idea that if you produce something, you take back what you produced. So to find a way for the manufacturers to take it back.
Yeah. So what I've been on webinars where they talk about specifically mattresses, where a certain proportion of the mattress cost of the mattress, which is borne by the person who buys it, goes back into recycling it. Now, how they would work that out, I'm not really sure. And the same thing would be posed for paint. I think the state legislature or somebody, one of the reps in this state is getting involved in a fee, like an additional fee for each can of paint that gets sold, where the manufacturer would have to provide a way. So if you bought, let's say, it's like soda cans, that kind of thing, you bring it back to the place where you buy it. Anything you have left over, they have to take it back because you've already paid for that. But it hasn't been presented to us in any formal fashion, saying, okay, what are you doing about this, that kind of thing. So we've never been asked any questions about it. I just know about it in, some of these things in general. So it hasn't really come down from Mass DEP, like in terms of, the EPR. So, unfortunately, they're not really, I think there's a couple of things out there, but nothing that's like, there's no rockets going off or anything like that, So common questions, styrofoam. Styrofoam is considered a nuisance plastic and has a recycling code number 6. Its value, I can't really read that because of all the people that are in the way there, but it's not, the Mass DEP it's not a waistband item. So a waistband item means if it's not a waistband item, it can go in the trash. It's a low value product. Basically used, as we know, for packaging and for beverages. And in the city of Framingham, there's no ban on it. So if you want to go get yourself a cup of soda, you can go to Cumberland Farms. They have it over there. Now, don't be, it's a little bit of a misnomer that, you know, a lot of these coffee cups are lined with plastics, and those coffee cups are not recyclable. So if you like Starbucks like I do, or even Dunkin' Donuts, all that is trash item, believe it or not. So therefore, it's not a waistband item. There's no market for it. The MRFs and the people are not putting it into any kind of priority. Now, in the past, we did have a vendor where we used to collect it at, I don't know if anybody remembers that, but we used to collect it at the recycling drop-off center. And we used to have bags of this stuff, and we used to have to bring it down. We used to bring it to a place out in Mendon, and they would take it in, but they went out of business because there was no buyer anymore for that stuff. They used to chop it up, bale it, crunch it, like put it in a bale and send it off, but not anymore. It's unfortunate. Black plastic is another one of those things that, you know, for some reason, they just decided we're going to use black plastic for this, that, and the other thing. And one of them is takeout food. It's a number 6 code on the back. And I wrote in here, this plastic is the new kid on the block, but it's not welcome in the neighborhood at the party, because processors have not invested in the equipment, to sort it. So, you know, when you think about how they sort products, people aren't grabbing these little plastics out of the, you know, when it goes to the MRF and through the conveyor belt. That's all being done electronically, and because there's no value to this plastic, they're not investing in it. Maybe someday they will, you know, I hope so. And I talked to my person over at Mass DEP, and she told me that they're just simply not a value for it, and so therefore they're not investing in its processing. So that's the long and the short of black plastic. E-waste, we'd love to take e-waste. We don't want it in recycling. We don't want it in trash, especially those CRTs and old computers and things like that, because there's lots of valuable metals in there, some plastics. And so what we want people to do is either call up Simple Recycling. They'll come get it if you don't want to, you know, bring it down to the recycling center. But we do have an e-waste collection, and it is alive and well at the recycling drop-off center. We collect it, you know, on the weekends, and actually Thursday through Sunday, just bring it down. And all of our e-waste is certified by our e-waste vendor. And I believe that's Complete Recycling Solutions. I'm not quite sure where they're out of. And then I think another question was household hazardous waste every year. We do this at least annually, but sometimes twice, like we did it twice this year. COVID put a crimp. And when we did reopen it up, we were there all day, which is great. So the recycling drop-off center, and there again, you know, if you get the app or just simply look online, get the sanitation calendar, they'll tell you when all these events are going to be. And we also operate what's known as a center for hard to recycle material. So what is hard to recycle material? Batteries, fluorescent light bulbs. We don't take paint, latex that is. We do take oil-based paint at the household waste days events. Tires, things of that nature. So bring it down, and we'd be more than happy to. Oil, car fluids, things of that nature, with the exception of like brake fluid. You'll have to bring that over to the hazardous waste day. All right. Common problems, contamination recycling card is a continuous problem. like we mentioned earlier, if it's not of the top 5 and it's clean, it's considered residue and it's considered a problem, contamination. Trash bags. Now, the city of Framingham with I was involved in this with Judy Grove, and we managed to get a trash bag, plastic bag, single-use bag banned in Framingham, and as well as an incentive, 10-cent incentive for people to purchase, reusable bags. So if you don't want to spend 10 cents, you just simply get a reusable bag. We did exclude the paper bags because we felt like, we needed to give the residents an option, or our patrons an option, and that would be the best option. Although maybe not the best, would be the paper bags. I go in there, I just buy minimal and whatnot, do my best to make sure I bring my reusable bags with me. Sometimes I forget. So what is the state? So we talked about what state funds are available and what is it used for. So we have what's called a Mass DEP, Sustainable Materials Recovery Program. And basically the grant fund expenditure limitations, funds are limited to specific equipment purchases and programs. So funds are used for such things as beyond the bin, closing the loop equipment, model program, organics, other things based on, if you have a written plan, you can present to DEP about it, outreach and education, public spaces, reuse, source reduction, and toxics. So let's go through, and we have a whole list of things. The thing of it is, if you want to take a screenshot of it, it might be better, because I had actually not this screen, but the next one, because I had to reduce it because it was just so much. So, beyond the bin is, basically what you can do is get on our website, and you'll see the Beyond the Bin link, and it'll take you to where you can recycle things. So in our case, Framingham, you can recycle mattresses. All right, bring them to us, that kind of thing. Equipment. So what we do is we use primarily the funds in our city are used for equipment. It's used for technology. It's used to buy more recycling carts, because recycling carts get used and they get broken, as well as trash carts. Organics, we do some organics. In terms of Mass DEP gives us a subsidy for home-based composters, backyard-based composters, and you can get one, a really good one. They're really nice, made out of plastic, probably recyclable, recycled plastics, and you can get them for $25. Now, not everybody can recycle, can compost. I have a composter out in the back of my house, but it's not one of the ones that we use. The other big thing here is outreach and education.
Before you go on to that, we had a bunch of questions about the city supporting curbside compost services.
Yeah, the way that we support it is by simply allowing Black Earth to come into the city and engage the resident. We're not involved in it, and the reason being is because we simply do not have the manpower or the equipment to do it. Right now, we have 10 recycling and trash drivers, and then we have another 5 people that run the run the RDC, and that's it. So we really don't have the manpower to do it. Now, I know Natick initially started it, and they had to turn it over to, I believe, to Black Earth, because they couldn't really keep it going in-house. So and there's nothing wrong with that. There are funds available for curbside composting, but that's another animal altogether. So we have not been involved in terms of composting at curbside, with the exception of just letting Black Earth into the city, which I think is a great idea. Now, that is a subscription, so you have to pay for it. Now, the people who are going to use that, generally speaking, are very up to speed on that kind of thing. And they're not, the people who want to use that service aren't the kind of people who just say, well, I'm just going to just get it out of my hair. I'm not going to sort through it. I'm not going to put, my scraps in a bucket and put it out on the curb. Because we have almost 70,000 residents now, and we service, about 18,000 of those at curbside. Toxics, so a lot of the money that we use go towards hazardous waste day. On average, it costs about $20,000 to $25,000 to run a hazardous waste day. So I'm real happy that we're able to do that. Source reduction would be something like, equipment would be buying. So here's an example of buying equipment using the funds. We just bought another container to put the box springs in, because Mass DEP is now considers that a waistband item, that in mattresses. So we have to find more room. We're doing about 50, I would say between 40 to 50 mattresses per week. Now you got to figure each mattress has a box spring, not all of them, but if you use that as a rule of thumb, you got to have more equipment and manpower to handle it. And so right now we're basically at, in terms of manpower, we're getting it done with what we have. So, things do get strained in the manpower department, or labor department, I should say. It costs just as much to get that stuff out of the trash as it does. I'm under the impression it's about the same amount of money. Now, Black Earth, I'm not sure where Black Earth is bringing their material. I thought it might have been up at the Eastleigh Farms up there, but I'm not 100% sure.
Stephen, we have it, it's 8:10. I think we'd like to wrap up in about
Okay.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
a question that might relate to the trilingual stickers, but do you see any variation in the city between districts or neighborhoods in terms of contamination?
Yes, we do. But it's not, contamination is everywhere. All right. And I really believe that the more educated people are, the more that they're going to recycle, and the less contamination that you're going to have. We do have a very large non-English speaking population. And right now I'm in the works working with our people downtown to get me on into the Brazilian community, the non-English speaking community, specifically Brazilians, because I feel like, there's an opportunity for us to really educate people and really get them to understand how to recycle properly. So, but it's not necessarily just Brazilian people, just people who aren't educated to begin with. So even on the Tuesday route, for example, there are areas there where, we have some opportunities to really have a lot of education for people who don't necessarily speak English. And there again, it's always, in my opinion, it's all like one-on-one in a lot of cases, like what not to do. So if I can intercept somebody who we're having an issue with, or a household that we might be having problems with, generally speaking, the multifamilies we do have a lot of problems with, but we have been getting better, and it's basically through education and outreach. Yeah. How was that for an answer?
I know people have other questions in the chat. But I said I'll follow up with you, Stephen, because we are getting late here.
Yeah.
And we'll get those written up and shared with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's see here. So we'll just I don't know if people want to take a screenshot of this here, they can. This is basically the point spread for the SMRP RDP worksheet. This is what I'm shooting for, and I'm hoping that we get it. So one of the things that I'm shooting for would be bulky items, the charm, curbside recycling regulations, meaning the enforcement aspect and education, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We talked about that just a second ago. If you go on the website, we now have a lot of multilingual information in there. household hazardous waste. We do 2 times a year organics, meaning that we offer the residents composters at a reduced price. Recycling center access to both businesses and residents, and reuse, library of things. Waste reduction. Unfortunately, we don't qualify for waste reduction because we have the 96-gallon carts, and we collect them every week. So basically, we opted out of that. That was long before, way back when we first started the program. Textiles, doing the activities, we get a point. Waste prevention. Waste prevention is basically through outreach and education through our websites, engaging residents, doing programs like this, webinars. Yard waste, allowing residents we collect yard waste at curb, and we also do it at the yard waste facility. So I'm looking to get 15 points, but if you look on the bottom right-hand corner, what did I write there? Don't count your chickens until they hatch. In other words, until they cut the check and say, congratulations, it's not in the bank. So we'll see.
What's the approximate value of 15 points? Just
I think it's roughly, each point is worth, I think, like $2,500. So it's significant. It's a good amount of money. You're not gonna. It'll put a little dent. It'll help. So, and thank you. Appreciate it. I appreciate everybody coming tonight. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm more than happy to discuss things with you. And I'm always looking for better ways to educate all areas and all members of the community as to how to recycle better. So maybe there's someone in the audience who can put me in touch with somebody who will help me do that. I'm very open to everything.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stephen. We really appreciate your questions. I know folks had a lot of interest, and we're just really pleased that you have the time and are so knowledgeable about everything that goes on in our city and all the materials that we all generate. So
yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you.
I think being also running the routes has helped me understand in great depth how the whole industry works. And I really, it's good for the resume, I guess, but I don't look at it as a resume. I just look at it as a way of helping out the city. I was born in Framingham. I've been here all my life. Moved away for a couple of months when I was in the Army, but so I consider Framingham my home, and I always want to see it do better. And people like you all, I appreciate you coming, and spread the word.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We definitely will.
Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good evening, everyone.